Hey, what's going on, fight fans and wrestling fans? This is Coach D, the Wild Man, coming at you again. This time, it's time for me to catch up in the sport of youth wrestling. Now, you know what I do. I talk about all things from combat sports side of the game. You know what I'm saying? If you're a youth, if you're an amateur, if you're trying to get your feet wet on this platform that we call combat sports, then I'm the guy to talk to. Right now, I have Chris Vargo from South Carolina Elite. He's a coach and a dad of wrestlers. So I want to have a conversation with him so we can talk about how he sees the sports from his end, not only as a parent but as a coach. He's also my road dog, and we know how to talk that share of shit. So I like somebody who's willing to go in with me and call it like exactly how it is. That's why I got him on the line. So we're gonna go in and have some fun. So Chris, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, so can you hear me and see me good?
Yeah, man.
All right, good.
You get
All
over
right,
there?
yeah, we good, man. Perfect sound. So let me explain to you what we do. Okay, what I do with Fight Camp Promotion, I basically give information to the world of combat sports on particular topics. You know what I'm saying? I pick one and I let the fans know what it is. So right now, you know how we've been rolling. We've been hitting this road and we've been following the youth wrestling scene. You know, going up the ladder, seeing who's doing what, why, and how. But it's time to start breaking some stuff down. To the casual fan, they may not know what youth wrestling it is. How does it apply to going to high school, going to college, being a big name in the wrestling game? So from your point of view, I want you to explain the wrestling game to the casual fan. So start from the beginning. How did you get started in youth wrestling?
I got started in youth wrestling when my son started wrestling when he was 5 years old.
Okay.
And that kind of got me into it a little bit.
And that's it. You said, hey, my son's
Yep.
wrestling. I'm in it.
Yep. I always wanted to coach it. When I wrestled in high school, and I love the sport from the day I stepped on the mat. So I always wanted to. I understood how much you have to give back to the sport in order to keep it thriving. It's such
Mm-hmm.
a generational and community kind of sport.
Okay. All right. So now let's kind of now that I've been doing broadcasting and I've been trying to get these tournaments, up to a certain level of exposure. What I've been realizing is there's a lot going on, right? So I'm gonna use you as the sounding board to kind of walk fans through what it takes to really be good in this game of wrestling. Like I said, an average tournament can have anywhere from 150 wrestlers all up to 4,000 and above. So from you as a coach, how do you kind of get your wrestler out there so that he's performing at the highest levels? Number one, number two, and he could be seen and stand out from the crowd of all of these wrestlers. How do you map where you go and what you do as a coach?
Well, it starts really in the practice room. I've always been a philosophy that your hardest matches should be in the practice room.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got no partners and you move in the practice in a direction where they're never going to have to be, it's never going to be as hard in an actual match as it will be in their own room that they see every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to handle that pressure and be able to push through those matches and succeed out on the wrestling mat.
Mm-hmm.
How you get them to stand out is you got to really pick and choose your competition.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big supporter of wrestle less, compete less, but compete with higher quality opponents.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried, and that's kind of a change in my philosophy when I was a younger coach. I just tried to throw the kids out there and get as many matches as possible because everyone talks about mat time, mat time, mat time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when they're young, those first 2 or 3 years, sure, you want to try and get them out there on the mat, get them used to it, get them aware of the mat. But as they get older, I think you need to rein in their competition and focus more on the quality of it versus the quantity of it.
Okay. Well, now, well, that being said, of course, I know you compete with Skyway, and I'm broadcasting for Skyway along with War. But the question is that if you look at the schedule, I mean, there's like so many tournaments. Like I said, we're doing a tournament every week, so break down the difference between, because like I said, if you go to a tournament and you got what, 700 wrestlers, you may have maybe 50 or 60 in one bracket. How many matches do a wrestler tend to have to compete on in any given tournament, give or take?
Uh, Obviously, it depends on the amount of kids in the tournament that are the same age and weight.
Yeah.
But I would say on average, you get at least 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get some of those bigger national tournaments, you might have, depending if they're 1 or 2 day tournaments, you might have 7 or 8 matches in one day,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 12, 13 matches over a weekend if you get through the tournament and you get through all the rounds. So I mean, it depends on the tournament, but you're looking at a lot of work in a day,
Mm-hmm.
regardless.
So a tournament of that size, how do you prepare? Like I said, when you say, "Hey, we're going to a new way tournament," and you're going to be wrestling 7 or 8 times, how do you prepare your kids for that level of competition, or does it even matter?
I personally don't change our club's methodologies for preparation
Mm-hmm.
based on the tournament we're going to, because if you're teaching the kids techniques that work all through all the levels of wrestling, so like because some people will teach young kids how to win at young levels with moves they know will work instead of
Mm-hmm.
taking the lumps and teaching them the things they know are going to work all the way through high
Mm-hmm.
school level, college level. There's just certain ways of wrestling that translate.
Yeah.
So if you're teaching the kids techniques that translate, then you shouldn't have to change your prep. Because you should always be conditioning, you should always be teaching the proper techniques, you should always have a certain amount of live wrestling, a certain amount of drilling, and if you're doing those things properly, you shouldn't ever have to change your prep for one tournament to the next. Now, that changes as you get older, but I'm speaking from a youth level. You should train them the same way all the time.
Okay. So how do you?
That's my opinion on it.
So let's talk about youth wrestling. Of course, as you compete, then you go to the middle schools, then you go to high schools. Okay. Walk me through when it's considered youth wrestling, and then when you transition into high school and blah blah blah. Walk me through the system of youth to high school or youth to college, or however long you want to go.
All right, so youth wrestling generally is considered 4 or 5 years old through middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you're in middle school, you can participate in a youth tournament. And every tournament might have different age groups, just depending on how they want to. Some might do it by grade, some might do it by age. It just depends on what organization you're rolling with
Mm-hmm.
at the particular who's sanctioning it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of make the split at about 7th grade. I think 7th and 8th grade, true middle school wrestling, I think should be separate, should be different than normal youth wrestling, because now you're in the final stages. Now you're in full on prep mode for high school wrestling.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, high school wrestling is when winning and losing matters. Is when it
Mm-hmm.
starts to change from that. You're still learning technique, you're still improving, but everything you do in high school really matters.
Okay.
Like,
So
you can win national tournaments at the youth level and stuff like that, and that might start getting people to know who you are.
mm-hmm.
And if you continue that success in the middle school, there's going to be people knowing your name at least. Like, your name will be out there. People will pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't do anything in high school, no one's going to care what you did pre-high school.
Okay.
Like, no one's going to care how many national championships, how many state titles you won before high school if you're not winning any in high school.
Okay. So why have so many daggone tournaments for youth wrestling? I know Skyway, we got like freaking 20 something tournaments. You know what I'm saying? So why so much if it doesn't matter until you get to high school?
Well, the tournaments, like I've told my kids, the kids I coach and my own children, that everything you do is preparation for high school.
Okay.
So you go out there and wrestle in a tournament. You're out there to learn from your mistakes. You're out there to learn from what you do well when you win. So really, everything they're doing is a step towards preparing them for entering high school.
Okay.
And so you have the tournaments every week, because every week's an opportunity to learn and grow your skill set
Mm-hmm.
while you're young, and make it muscle memory and make it easier for you to translate it over to when you're ready to go into high school. But that's part of the reason why you got a lot of tournaments. Plus, it's a lot more. You get a lot of options. So, like, if there's some weekends you can't go, you always have an ability to go to still get your kid able to compete by having a tournament every weekend, stuff like that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, everything you do, whether you're competing, whether you're a parent, or whether you're a coach, you should be keeping this in perspective for your kids. Like it's a process. And you have to constantly remind the kids to trust the process, and that process will prepare them for high school, which is where they're trying to have their success at. It's nice to win. It's a bonus to win while you're a youth. It's not because, if you're a competitor, you want to win. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're trying to make it so that you can win when you get to high school. Because high school is what's really going to get you into college if that's what you want to do.
Okay. So explain the difference between, like picking your national tournaments. Like I know you see us. We went to Jersey, New Wave. We're in Vegas. We just came back from, Florida. How important are these national tournaments compared to just like a local tournament? What are you looking for your kids when you go from a regular club tournament and then you go to a national tournament? What are you looking to accomplish?
The only reason I find any value in these national tournaments is I like to expose my kids to as many different styles of wrestling as possible, and every region of the country tends to have their own little nuances in how they teach the sport and kind of things they do. Some are more finesse, some are more power. Some are more technical, some are more funk. It just kind of depends where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for that, and I look for the increased competition because you can't get better if you're wrestling kids who are not as good as you every week.
Yeah.
So I take my boys to tournaments. I take the kids from my club to these national tournaments mainly to look for kids. I'm looking for my kids to lose.
Okay.
I am purposely trying to find kids that can beat my kids.
And you just do that just so they understand the growth of it, or you like that's where your head's at?
Part of it is you want them to understand that there's still another level to get to, that there's still somebody better than them.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is you want them to understand what it feels like when an elite wrestler wrestles you, like how they grab you, how they shoot on you, how they ride you, how they turn you, so that you understand the difference between how you wrestle and how they wrestle. Mm-hmm. So physically and mentally what level you're trying to get to, and you can't do that without experiencing it.
Yeah.
So that's why I take kids to national tournaments. I try to keep it. I try to go a couple a month. I'm not trying to wrestle in a national tournament every single week.
Yeah.
Because the kids still need to rest and recuperate their bodies because they're still getting beat up on. Even if they win, they're getting beat up on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
yeah, that's kind of what I look for.
So now let's put on your, where do you want your kid to go at? You know what I'm saying? When you look at, okay, my kid's doing good on the local levels. He's entering high school. He's making a name for himself. Is your goal just to have him just so he can get a scholarship to any D1 college, or what's your plans? What are your plans for your son in wrestling, or just for fun?
Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's up to what he wants to do. So, I mean, now he's in high school. It's kind of more of I kind of guide him a little bit, but at the end of the day, I tell him, you got to make your own decisions, and every decision you make is going to impact whatever goals you're trying to set for yourself. So, if he wants to go D1, then he's going to put in the work to go D1. I'm going to do my job as a parent and make sure that I'm getting him in freestyle and Greco. Mm-hmm. I'm getting him to tournaments he needs to get to. I'm putting him around the right coaches. I'm making sure I'm getting him to Vargo. I'm going to make sure I get him to the tournaments he needs to go to. Mm-hmm. It's like preseason, I made sure he went to Super 32s because there's certain tournaments where there's going to be coaches looking at scouting for talent. Yeah. So your job as a parent, honestly, to me as a parent, my job is just to get my son put in those situations where he can be exposed to the coaches. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, he's got to make the decisions and put in the work to get where he needs to go. And I'm not going to sit here and hound him and try to live my life through him. That's just not the way it's going to work. I'm going to encourage him and motivate him the best I can. But at the end of the day, he has to make his own choices But my job is to get him to the tournaments he needs to go to and put him around the right coaches and give him all the opportunities where if he makes the right choices, he can get where he wants to go.
Okay, so great. I'm glad you brought that up. Hey, hold on. So you don't know, we're live. So Jermaine, thanks for the comments, man. He was talking about picking the right coach. I mean, picking the right camp and trusting your camp. So that's what he was just commenting on. But okay, you brought up a great question, which I wanted to lead into. So picking the right tournament to put your wrestler in the right spotlight with coaches, like you mentioned Super 32, you mentioned Vargo, and things like that. So do you send them to both? Do you pick one more so over the other? And in your mind, what do they both mean? What does Super 32 mean to you, and what does Fargo mean to you as a coach?
Super 32 is probably the hardest folk style tournament in the country. Mm-hmm. And really it's a good measuring stick of where you are as far as in your collegiate style of wrestling. And I think there's a lot of weight put on that, and it gives you a good idea of where you're at and where you need to go, especially at the high school level. Mm-hmm. I think as far as high school goes, you're not going to get a tougher tournament.
Okay.
Fargo, that's where you get to kind of show more of your freestyle and Greco skills. And I think Fargo's really good in the aspect of it shows the college coaches you're committed to wrestling year round. Like the fact that you show up there kind of like put your front foot in the door for the college coaches, whether it's D1, D2, D3, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Getting a free education or getting help in an education is really all that matters at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be D1. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If that's where you want to go, sure. But there's other opportunities besides D1. But Fargo is a good way to show college coaches that you're committed to the sport and you're committed to putting in the work. More so than – and obviously you need a good result helps, but you got 4 years to kind of build your result part up. Mm-hmm. But they want to see if you're showing up these tournaments year after year after year, and you're improving your results every year. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get the attention of a lot of coaches at every level.
Okay.
So I try to send them to both.
All right, so we're gonna put a pin in that. I want to revisit that in 1 second. Kind of explain to the casual fans what does D1, D2, and D3 mean.
Well, you got just like any other sport in college, you got Division I, Division II, Division III. Division I is what you guys are thinking of when you think of like Big Ten, Pac-10, kind of stuff like that. And then Division II and Division III they're still NCAA, they're just smaller level schools. Okay. And then below that, you also have your NAIA and your NWCA. And, NAIA actually has kind of like where and you got your NJCAA, your junior college as well. Mm-hmm. So, there's 6, 7 different levels of wrestling you can get to, and you can still get your education. It's just a matter of school size and prestige, really.
Okay. All right, good. Casual fans, now you're caught up. So let's get back to styles of wrestling. And so now we're going to get into the meat. So you see I was ramping up. So now we're going to get into the meat of, not only picking a tournament that you want your kid to shine at, is what styles will he be known for? So here in South Carolina, I know we're big on folk style, but I think up north maybe is more Greco and freestyle. I'll let you tell me. But with 3 different styles of wrestling, can it get tricky on which ones you pick that gives your son the right exposure, or just being able to get into college, does it even matter? You know what I'm saying?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I would imagine it's a very small number of Division I wrestlers, especially that don't wrestle freestyle and Greco. Okay. Or that didn't wrestle freestyle and Greco all the way up through their youth and high school careers. Mm-hmm. Youth and freestyle and Greco adds so much to your folk style. It's like freestyle really, really adds to your neutral position. You're on your feet. Mm-hmm. It makes you a lot better on your feet. It makes you a lot better with your hips. Mm-hmm. Greco gets you a lot better in your tie-up positions and head positioning and using your leverage from the waist up. So there's a lot of skills that will make you a better folk style wrestler if you're doing freestyle and Greco. And from my own personal experience, I will tell you that I got much better, much faster because of my freestyle and my Greco
Okay.
at folk style wrestling.
So I mean, so when you, I don't even know. I wrestled. All my fans who know me, yes, I did wrestle back in high school, umpteen thousand years ago. I don't even think I even knew about folk style, until I got older and started seeing kids, do folk style. So I can't even tell you when folk style even came about, in my opinion. So it's not as old as Greco and freestyle, or is it?
No, folk style is kind of it's an American style of wrestling.
Uh huh.
No one else really does it. That's why you call freestyle and Greco the Olympic styles. That's what everyone does, freestyle
Mm-hmm.
and Greco. It was really developed to give a safer style of wrestling to be able to do in schools.
Mm-hmm.
So folk style is really just that's why you can't suplex people in folk style
Mm-hmm.
and lock hands on bottom and stuff like that. They wanted to make it safer so that schools could actually use it.
Okay.
And that I don't remember exactly when that came around, but it developed in America in the 20th century. I know that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's break it down. Let's use your kids as an example. Like I said, we're having the conversation. It's time to start talking these things. We're looking to elevate the sport of wrestling, and most fans don't know the difference between folk style and Greco and freestyle unless you're actually a coach or a parent of wrestlers. If you're just trying to watch the sport, some know, some don't. That's why we're having the conversation. So we're strictly going to use your kids as an example. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you're partial
Okay.
to your kids, and you want to see them go the way you want them to go. So uh, since you're down this way, you're doing tons of folk style, right? So you're going to new way tournaments and all that kind of good stuff. Do you try to make sure they do, Greco and freestyle as well, or you just wrestle where you're wrestling at? Wherever you're at is how you wrestle.
My oldest, with my youngest son, no, because he's only in fifth grade. I'm not. You don't need to be going year round yet.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest son does a full freestyle and Greco season on top of a full high school folk style season.
Okay.
So as soon as high school season ends in February, he'll roll right into freestyle and Greco season all the way through July.
Okay. So folk style is school season, out of school, Greco and freestyle.
Yep.
Okay. And so say say he was to get into college, what would that mean to his wrestling career? Would he strictly be Greco and freestyle, or would he still have folk style in that as well? I'm not saying I'm learning.
Well, a lot of colleges, depending on the college you go to, generally there's a regional training center,
Mm-hmm.
and these college coaches will try to push their wrestlers into continuing freestyle and Greco and try and get them on junior world teams and for freestyle and Greco. To try and get them as much international competition as they can. It's like the college coaches fully support freestyle and Greco,
Mm-hmm.
and they actively try to get their wrestlers into things like the world championships and world team trials and all that kind of stuff, and try and get their. That's why guys like Kyle Dake and David Taylor are on the world team because
Mm-hmm.
they won multiple NCAA national championships, and their coaches have in regional training centers wrestling freestyle and going to world team trials every year trying to make the world team.
Yeah.
And they'll be there at the Olympic trials and try and make the Olympic team as well.
Okay. So
So he'll be doing, if they make it to college, they might not do Greco. Like you might have to pick one, freestyle or Greco when you get to college,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll be doing one of them in addition to folk style while in college.
Okay. So in college, folk style is still a staple. It's a staple now. It's when you
Yeah,
go
that's
to
how you
college, you're
wrestle
gonna
it.
be doing folk style. So I
Yeah,
mean, so
folk style is the collegiate style of wrestling, yes.
okay. So when would you add on? You would only add on Greco or freestyle if you're looking to make it to the Olympics. Did I hear that correctly?
Olympics, world championships. Yeah, that's what they wrestle at the worlds, and what they wrestle in the Olympics is freestyle and Greco.
Okay. All right. So let's look at when you're watching, tournaments like we see on track wrestling, when we see on Flow Combat, and you will be seeing Coach D broadcast some wrestling too. God dang it! But when you look at watching some of these big tournaments, like you said, you see Burrows and all them, they're primarily Greco, right? Or
Freestyle.
Freestyle. Right.
Yeah, primarily freestyle.
Flo is not even doing folk style, right?
Yeah, Flo does folk style too.
Okay.
Flo does a lot of like big national high school tournaments, and then I think Oklahoma State's one of the college teams has a contract directly with Flo to broadcast all their home matches.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's some colleges that have contracts exclusively with Flo to broadcast their matches.
Okay. All right.
So, dude, Flo does it all.
So comparing Super 32 and Fargo, they can both get you into college, and both get you to the higher echelons of where you want to go with wrestling, right? So it don't matter which one you do, or you should always do both.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of doing both because I think by the time you get to that point of high school, once you're in the high school regions of wrestling, you should be doing freestyle, Greco, and folk style. Like there should be no. If you're serious about it and you're trying to go wrestle in college, or you're trying to win a state championship, if you're not doing freestyle, you're probably not going to win a state championship. I mean, just from the numbers. Like I don't know about South Carolina in particular, but I know, for example, when I grew up wrestling in Indiana, and it's one class of wrestling, 14 weight classes, and I think the last numbers I saw, 13 of the 14 state champions wrestled freestyle. So your chances of winning without freestyle are very small.
Okay. So getting back and do you have to qualify for both Super 32 and Fargo, or can you just sign up?
Yes. You got to qualify for both.
Okay, and how does a young competitor qualify for the big tournaments?
Well, I know Super 32. So Super 32s, if you're a state champ or if you're a previous Super 32 qualifier, you automatically qualify. And then they have qualifying tournaments you can go to qualify for Super 32s. Now for Fargo, you basically need to win your freestyle state championship or whatever basically your state will decide what the qualifying criteria is, and then you just have to meet that criteria from your state.
Okay.
And then they'll send you as part of their state delegation to Fargo.
Okay. So last a couple more questions, and we're gonna start wrapping some things up. But since I've been doing this, it's just a ton of wrestling going on. Okay. In your opinion, just using your kids, how are your kids standing out? You know what I'm saying? How are people seeing your kids as more than just a number on a bracket? Or do you have to do a little bit more to make sure their kids are in the right spots being seen by the right people? How do you go about it?
Well, I know the wrestling community is a lot of word of mouth. And the kids wrestling generally will speak for itself as far as like when people see their name on a bracket. If you show up at a tournament and someone sees some kid's name on a bracket, like everyone at that tournament, when they see that kid's name, they're like, I don't want to, that kid's good. I'd worry about that kid. Like everyone knows kind of when they sit in the gym. As far as getting them known, I mean, really at the mat, if you want to get them known by the coaches, I mean, you really just got to make sure you put them in the right tournaments and prepping them the best way you can to succeed at those tournaments. On top of that, people are going to look at how they react when they win, how they react when they lose. Are they sore losers? Are they gracious losers? So their attitude has a lot to do with whether coaches want to look at them anyway, no matter how good they are. Coaches are going to look at you as a parents. They're going to see how you react when your kid wins or loses. They're going to look at how you treat them and the way you are. So if you're one of those parents in the stands cussing and throwing stuff, that's going to be negative. That's going to look negative on your kids. It's going to make people second guess about recruiting them. And then obviously the third thing is the coaches are going to go look at your social media and your kids' social media as much as they can and try to get a gauge of what kind of person they are. So all that stuff plays, and actually, from what I can tell, plays more of a role than actually some of the results your kid's going to get in a tournament.
Okay.
So if you're competing well and you're building your reputation up, and then and you got good grades, and they can't really find any big character flaws, you got a really good chance of wrestling at the next level.
Okay. So let's use Skyway right now. So your youngest wrestling son. Okay, is that what you're doing? Because we got so many tournaments throughout this season. How do you pick which one that you're gonna go to, or you just keep going until you see him improve, or he gets a certain amount of wins? How do you outline which Skyway tournament you're gonna go to? Just using you.
Well, I start at the beginning of the year. I go to all the Team Palmetto qualifiers because I want to try and get him on the national team.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also where I gauge his competition. If he's not getting any competition whatsoever, especially in his age group, then I'll either bump him up an age group, and if he gets some matches, good. But even then, even if he's getting good matches, I don't want him wrestling the same people every single week.
Yeah.
Because then the kids get familiar with each other, and then it's more of a familiarity than who's better or who's worse sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they kind of wrestle to each other instead of wrestling instead of focusing on how they wrestle to stop the other kid. And that's not kind of like it's not really how you want to teach wrestling.
Yeah.
You want to get their own style and wrestle their style and force their style onto somebody else all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So usually once that happens, I kind of back out of the local scene for a while, and we start leaving the state multiple times a month, whether it's to Pennsylvania or Jersey or Maryland, Virginia, Tennessee. Like we start branching out, and that's when I start really working in his national schedule. Between January and the beginning of March, I really start working in his national schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Then we come back in for the state tournament. And then once the state tournament's over, we'll work into our off-season national schedule. And then usually about Memorial Day weekend or so, I'll shut him down for the rest of the year, and then let him play around in the summer, and then let him play football in the fall, and then roll back into wrestling.
Okay. So you say, do you have so many state tournaments and so many national tournaments, so you keep them even, or it all depends on how he's doing?
I do more. I have my kids do more national tournaments than I do local tournaments.
Okay.
But it all depends. All depends how your kid's progressing. Like if your son or daughter's still getting good matches at the local level, I basically made it off until my son won a state title, I didn't take him out of the state.
Okay.
So once they met that milestone, then we branched out to maybe like the region, like maybe the states surrounding where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they started doing well there and competing at a high level there, then I branched out to more national. So I had a process with it. I started off only local when they were little.
Mm-hmm.
Let them build up their technique, their confidence, let them build up their mat time, kind of their mat awareness, learn how to manage their matches a little bit. And then after that, it was just based on competition. If they were getting first place every week, then I was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Like I look for tournaments where I think my kids can lose matches, which kind of sounds counterintuitive to some parents. But there's no reason to try and take your kids so they win every tournament every week when they're young.
Yeah.
You should be trying to take your kids places where they lose. Once they know what they got to work on, but two, so they learn how to handle it and learn to fight through a little adversity. Like I purposely try and put some adversity in my kids' life so they have to work through it in the wrestling room.
Okay.
They never have it. They never know how to deal with it.
So like I said, I've seen a lot of tournaments where I see a lot of wrestlers just running through the competition, So say he's dominated at his weight class. I'm using your kid. Say your kid is just dominant at a weight class. Would you bump him up to a higher weight class, or just keep him in the national tournaments now that he knows that he can run through his weight class on a state level?
At the beginning of the year, I'll try something like a weight class, bumping a weight class, or bumping him up an age group.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 10. So sometimes I'll have him wrestle 12U, wrestle some older kids, see if their physical advantages and their advantage in physical development will test him.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like we're talking January, February time frame, I'm staying in the national tournament scene.
Okay. So as a youth, you can bump a child up. You can go up and down in age brackets, so you can go from 10 to 11 to 12 with no problem. You can go up and down, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can just sign your kid up to wrestle against older kids. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. There's some big tournaments don't let you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as local tournaments go, like my oldest son, I used to have him wrestle elementary in the morning and middle school in the afternoon when he was in 5th grade.
Okay. So as long as he's making the weight, he's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what's up. All right. So we're about to wrap this up. So I want you to, from a coach standpoint, give some words of advice if you're going to try to make it in this sport. What are some of the things that you should have as a coach that you should have in your arsenal? Explain like technique versus strength and conditioning. You know what I'm saying? I'm still saying not a lot of strength and conditioning on a younger level, and I get it because they're still developing. But then I see kids who are having a degree of strength and conditioning blow out other kids because they don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that.
We keep most of our strength and conditioning to body weight, like pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups. I still think it's an important part. You need to make sure you're still building up their strength. We push conditioning really, really hard. Like we will run youth kids just like we would run the high school kids.
Yeah.
A gas tank is huge no matter how old you are. So we're firm believers in that you might beat us, but you're not gonna tire us out.
Yeah.
You're gonna get 3 periods out of us. As far as coaching kids, I pay attention a lot to burnout. I know burnout's a real thing. It's a tough sport. It's a demanding sport. I really try to keep it fun for the kids, but at the same time, teach them what they need to know and push them and show them they can do things they didn't think they could do. So you got to kind of balance that. Also, know the experience level of your kids and make sure they're wrestling in their appropriate in tournaments that's appropriate for their experience, right? You're not going to put a first-year wrestler in a national tournament because you're going to destroy their confidence, and they might not want to wrestle again.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus, they're not going to ever be able to work on their technique or execute their technique on a kid who's been wrestling 5-6 years longer than them. So and then you also have to set your parents' expectations. Like a big thing is your parents are expecting things to happen. They're expecting, like, no one wants their kid to be the one that's getting his ass kicked every day.
Yeah.
But you have to explain the process to your parents. You have to explain to them what the process of building a wrestler is, and that getting your butt kicked is part of the development of wrestling. Like you're going to walk in and get your butt kicked. That's what's going to happen. At least the first year or two, you're going to get pounded on. That's the way it is. And so you got to set your parents' expectations so that they know how to talk to their kids and build their kids up and keep their kids motivated and wanting to come back, even when they're getting killed.
Okay.
That's kind of how I approach it.
Well, you heard it, wrestling fans. Chris Vargo of South Carolina Elite, he gave us his rundown on where he sees the sport going. What should we look for, in developing your child, how we should train them. Now, this is our first introduction. I might have Chris on. We're gonna discuss some more in-depth topics. So you've seen the nice version. Me and Chris, we actually go in. We actually really go in. So right now, I just want to introduce you to him. So we're probably gonna have ongoing conversations to where we can really hit tough topics. But right now, I want him to get his feet wet and have the fight fans and wrestling fans know who he is. But the next one, we will probably be going some head-to-head, like, the difference between the different styles of wrestling. Why is, the folk style gaining ground, blah, 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 against USA. So we will be covering a lot real soon, real fast. So today is just an introduction to have fun. So when I start talking crap to them, you don't see me bullying up on somebody.
Yeah, you ain't gonna bully me. I ain't worried about it.
Oh, you heard that, right? That's what I'm talking about. See, that's the Chris y'all don't know yet. I'm about to introduce you to the wild side of this fool. All right. So
I don't know if ready for that.
Hey, this is, like I said, this is our first broadcast. Now we're gonna have more wrestling conversation. You always seen me. I'm always doing MMA, but you're gonna see me do a lot more combat sports conversations. So it's gonna be MMA one day. It's gonna be wrestling another day. It's gonna be jiu-jitsu another day. Kickboxing. I'm gonna be broadening out so we get more information across the board because we need to step our game up across the board. Period. So this is Coach D, Fight Camp Promotion, hanging out with my road dog Chris Vargo. To hear from us again. Peace out.
Later.